Welcome to another episode of Madhu Decodes. Hi, Shubs. Welcome to the show. Shubs here is an interesting entrepreneur who has a lot of technology background, hands-on experience, but then there was a light bulb moment in his mind, and he's now a young entrepreneur called Align AI. Thank you for coming here, Shubs. Thank you for being in the show. I'm sure we both are going to discover new businesses and AI-generated operating models that you have done for your clients, and that will be a very good insight for my listeners as well. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Madhu, for having me and for the warm welcome. Thank you so much. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you this morning? I know it's a cloudy morning in England here.
Yeah, it's a cloudy morning. Winter is starting. But it's good. It's good.
Okay. I know there has been a lot of conversations, and I know you from the AAA community. I know you as a young entrepreneur and a startup enthusiast. I know you've attended a lot of events as well in startups and AI landscape, but I know that you've also done work with Photologgers, one of your customers, where you have revolutionized the thought process for photographers and managements. There is going to be, a need for photographers in AI space. I know probably in the content evolution or content creation spaces. But what was your aha moment when you thought, I need to do something for this business from a business optimization angle and revolutionizing their ways of working instead of the original, default thought process that probably for content creation photographers would need. So I think you've ventured into a different space where business operating models have been revolutionized for photographers. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yes, absolutely. So thanks for the introduction. Yes, this year I've worked with a photography agency and generally in that space to be able to work with them. One thing is photography agencies, they are very logistics heavy as well. They are also a lot more in the creative space. So the photography agency I've worked with is specifically they're the ones that have been part of Indian weddings. As you know, Indian weddings are very grandiose, they're large, they're huge. So it requires large teams of photographers, videographers, people taking pictures via drones. There's a lot more technology now. So when it comes to the logistical side, it becomes a bit of a nightmare from what I've been learning as well, working with these agencies. There's many elements of a photography agency that have helped, bring AI into automate the systems, integrate different technologies. But I think the revolutionary side, as you mentioned, it would be the post-production. So a little bit of an introduction to a photography agency process. As I mentioned, there are photographers, there are videographers that tend to go and shoot on events when events take place. Then there's a process of these images, these assets being stored either on a drive in the cloud somewhere, and then once that has been recorded, it's been added, then this information is then edited by an editor, which I'm sure for a lot of people, when it comes to getting their events recorded, the editing process takes months sometimes. I mean, I've been part of my own family weddings where the editing process has been very long. So one thing was how AI revolutionized that process was that once the photographers have been able to capture the moments of an event, it is stored in the cloud. Then there's an AI system that does the culling, the editing process. So based on previous themes and previous profiles of that given photographer, every photographer tends to have their own themes and own profiles of how they take images, how they edit. So they already have these templates. It's just the process of repeating that process again and again because they've already worked out. So what this AI system does is it takes a lot of these images from the past that they've already taken, actually it intricately takes and it profiles those different types of images and it creates a profile for you. And so then what I did is basically connected that Google Drive where the images went and it was categorized, and we created a workflow around it to say, as soon the photographers post any of those assets into a Google Drive, it will auto-categorize, and then it will follow a post-production process, which it will choose the profile based on the type of event. It could be also corporate. Once it goes into that process, it will edit and it will automatically tag those jobs. And once those jobs are categorized, then the relevant person is then sent reminders. So the system automatically does the culling process, editing process, then completes the job, and then sends out the required reminders to the customer, to the photographer, to the person who owns that project. And a lot of this has been achieved through Airtable, syncing a lot of this through Airtable. So yeah, that's the post-production side. Of course, there's a lot more restructuring that is happening in this agency. This is a new arm of that agency called Photologgers. So that was a very interesting space that I worked in.
That is interesting. So the maximum use of AI I have seen in Indian wedding and photography events, Shubs, is I've seen drones actually recognizing the faces of the main guests or even the hosts themselves. And I think there are the drones that actually track their faces, click some pictures, and then stores it in their memory kit. So that is what maximum I've seen as a use of AI. So what you're describing to me, post-production, where you have automated the process, the business process for culling and editing and actually communicating to your customers as well, is definitely something new. I don't think we have seen that space evolve greatly yet. So that's a different thought process. How did it occur to you that this is a problem statement that you have to solve for them?
I would say that, of course, this is a pain point that every business, when you go into business, they tend to have a lot of these pain points lying around, but they just don't know how to achieve those. This is literally where us as technologists go in and we understand the pain points and we understand, okay, what is it that you're doing, the as is process? What are you doing right now? What is your dream outcome? And for my client, he already knew that he wanted to restructure and build another arm, and he wants to basically change and restructure his model. He just didn't know how to do it. What is possible? What systems exist? In the past, I've been a full-stack developer. I've worked on enterprise level projects, and it takes a full team of people, of designers, researchers, then developers to actually then build out these projects. But now I think with AI and automation and a lot more cloud infrastructure, the cost overall is going down. I think it's just relaying that conversation, having that communicating that value add. So once I was able to showcase this is achievable in a smaller amount, because he already tried doing this in the past, and he got someone from, I think, Vietnam to try building his AI bot, and so he already had the idea, but he just didn't quite know how to achieve that. So that was first figuring out what the pain points were, what his dream outcome was, why did he want to set up this new arm, and then going in and actually building that system out, at least from an MVP level, and then showcasing the feasibility analysis, saying that this is possible. It's possible using Airtable. It's possible using this system called AI Imagine AI, which we bring them together, bring the different components into harmony, and be able to showcase that result. So I was able to create a initial setup, like an MVP, to showcase how these systems will interact. And then that was, I guess, that it was more of a conversation between me and him, and actually figuring out the art of possible, I would say. So
okay, so the way you've described to me is there is a process to the discovery of pain points.
Yes.
So you invested time in discovering their pain points.
That's
and
right.
Their dream outcomes. And then based on your tech stack, full development background, I think you then suggested the appropriate AI tools that can actually automate the process for them. So,
absolutely.
Right. So what were the pain points they described to you, and which one you thought is solvable and why?
So one thing was they've been running an agency for a very long time. It's all about they wanted to scale, and in order for them to scale and pretty much change their value proposition, which is, they want to expand into newer markets like, corporate product as well, shoots. So there's a lot more products that are coming out in different markets. So they want to be able to capture a lot of these markets. I've been following AI as well, and seeing how AI is being used for product branding, marketing, for many other reasons. So these guys are actually taking pictures of products. They're going to events, and they have seasons. So there's many reasons why they weren't able to grow, just because they were pigeonholed into this old model. And for them to expand and scale meant that they want to build a platform where they can hire a lot of photographers. And once those photographers are being hired, then there's a system in the middle that is able to allocate those jobs and then be able to do a lot of lead generation for these new events. It is part of, I think this initial project is part of a bigger vision, which is a Uber type application that allows a lot of photographers to meet the events and events to meet the photographers. And the application has the ability to manage jobs, trigger, new assignments, and then do auto payouts. So that's the broader scale. But then in the short term, it's about automating many parts of the existing business and then being able to scale that, where they have to pick up the call, actually say, right, there's an event happening in this location, then they call up the photographer and then they have to assign that person. And there's a very sort of manual process of assignment. So this process actually helped in automating that side as well, and then automating the post-production side as well.
That is interesting. So it's a bigger outcome. So the dream outcome for your customer was quite large, meaning in scalability aspect, in other words, right? And where you ended up spending time was understanding the vision and then narrowing down elements where you can automate as part of the vision, some of the low-hanging fruits or some of the more painful or manual, time-consuming areas, if I can interpret it that way.
Yes, that's exactly good.
Okay, so I think you have interpreted the manual workload in your head, and you've found out that the incoming or intake process, the project intake process, is a pain point. So you solved for that intake to be automated, and you also probably solved for, once they have scaled up, how do they actually make sure they have people to consume those projects and to actually execute them. So you have also helped them scale up by hiring a lot of photographers. So basically you have, in the intake, I think the workflow of the process was automated, but you also automated lead generation for recruiting photographers themselves, right?
So that's exactly that. Because as a vision and as you scale, the technology aspect, because they've already got very robust workflows, they already got a really good value proposition, they already have a lot of customers in the market, but now they want to take that value proposition and be able to replicate that amongst different segments. And just being able to know that we can use technology to automate different processes, it frees up and it enables that scale up. So like through the lead generation, being able to build a database of leads and then be able to automate that process of reaching out to these different segments, which is automation, helps with the hiring process, but then also winning the projects as they do more lead generation. They already have a lot of proof and authority, credibility in the market, which they can easily transfer into this newer segment. And so from there, like they can pretty much, from the money that comes in, or they can learn about these different segments, they can automatically build this pipeline and then be able to iteratively build out and build more scale towards it by handling the marketing, handling the operations, the post-production, and then just being able to free up this space where they have to manually rely on specific human beings. So this is definitely a very interesting
space.
And the fact that it's happening at a lower, you don't need these big teams anymore to go in, or you're able to empower a small to medium-sized business or an agency with these tools is very amazing. But before, it was enterprises that understood these kind of tactics, and they had the scale, they had the teams, they had the technology to actually build these kind of things out. But now I'm seeing that same being replicated amongst these smaller sized businesses that want to scale.
That's great. That is great. So you've cracked the intake process, the intake funnel and lead generation, at the left side of the process. But you've also seen when you're moving towards the right from, conceptualization to delivery. I think in the delivery part also you've done some automation, which is the post-production automation that you were just describing, right? So there was a post-production automation wing that you created where images were uploaded in Google Drive and Airtable was used to categorize it and then edit it and give some finalized output. And that finalized output was also notified or communicated to your customer as well as your project manager and your photographer as well to make sure all parties are informed. So that part of the process were also automated. So was it because when you scale up, you also want to reduce the speed to market time? Sorry, increase the speed to market,
Increase the speed to market time, yes. I think that is still in the process of increasing the speed to market time. There are some elements that are still being developed and still iteratively being established, and we're building that feedback loop, especially in the back-end side, the delivery side. It's initially the bottleneck was to actually getting more leads. Once we had figured out certain parts, the bottleneck was the leads, so we needed to get more leads, more photographers on board, more clients on board. They already have a lot of clients, but they want to basically increase the number of photographers that are being onboarded. That basically builds the funnel. But yes, all of this is to increase the speed to market, increase the speed to market
for their delivery. So let's double click on some of those automations you've done. Let's take lead generation for events. So for photo loggers, you did I think two parts to the lead generation. One part is actually finding projects that the photo loggers team can work on, and the second part is getting more photographers to be part of the projects themselves, right? So can you double click on those two aspects, and what kind of workflows did you to automate those two elements?
So the first element is to actually attract more talent as well, because there's many moving parts to this, because it's pretty much a new arm, so there's different elements. So the initial element was to run workshops, educate a lot of up-and-coming photographers, and then be able to hire them. So that is in the process. As we talk, these are elements that we've laid out, the bases, and these are running in the background. So these automations, because of the photography agency, they've already got a social media presence, which is great. They already have a lot of content, so they can actually market themselves really well. So they can put out that content. So then it's automating the process of, what the traffic is coming from the social media campaigns that they're running. They're relying on well-known other social media campaigns, so they're trying to increase their reach. And then once that traffic comes in, I created these funnels to be able to come to the website, be able to book these workshops, book interest in further courses as well, so that they can be certified as photographers and they can be hired. And that was one funnel, so coming through. And then you've got these new photographers being onboarded and being taught as well. And once they have been, there's a database of these photographers. All of that is on Airtable. Then they can be assigned, and then you can change them. And then Airtable again also focuses on the jobs. So it has different elements: photographers, the jobs, clients. All of this is being managed in Airtable.
That is very interesting. So how did you actually funnel in all the requests from different social media? So where did what kind of technology or tech stack did you use to consolidate all the inbound requests?
So very interesting. Like, as I mentioned, for me to create a website, it would take me ages if you were to hard code. I have been using Lovable, for example, to quickly spin up a website for them, very bespoke website for them, which allowed them to embed Airtable forms onto the website without even needing to do any single sign-on or authentication to start off with, just to quickly spin up these landing pages with interest forms, and then that interest all went into Airtable.
Okay.
And then once that Airtable, so then that's the sales cycle, that's the marketing and the sales cycle that kicked in. And then from there, that information comes into the Airtable. Yeah, that is the tech stack for the lead side of things.
Okay.
Side.
And then it moves on to CRM, their regular they integrated it with your regular CRM. Okay. And what about the talent generation? So there was a incoming talent generation program that you automated as well. So what kind of tech stack did you use there for automating that part of the workflow?
The talent.
Yes, the talent pool, the photographers who were invited and they were coached, or they were put through a course, they finished a certification and they joined as the talent pool. So that part of the process, did you have to automate it as well?
That part of the process is still in-house. That is more manual at the moment. So I think there's still elements where we don't want to automate everything. We don't want to say that, because once the client is or the talent is in the database, then being qualified, and then they've started to give them workshops. So they've partnered up with a institute that is providing these kind of photography workshops as well. So that means that there's a higher talent pool that's coming through. So they've created a different channel of like more hiring partners coming in. But then when it comes to the workshop side of things, they want to be able to teach them in-house. They don't want to automate. There was a potential, again, these are nice to haves. We are not they're not there yet, because you can automate and you can utilize. I even created a lovable system that was able to track the progress of each photographer being onboarded, and then you can actually see how far they have gone into their onboarding process, or their initial study phase, if you would like to call it, and who's qualified, who's got the highest performance. Also tracking, which photographer has done more jobs. It's like, Uberizing photography agencies. When you go into Uber and you search for an Uber driver and they pair you up, and then they have a ratings, for example, that is a system that is basically conceptualized.
Okay.
It's actually conceptualized on Lovable, but it's not being added into the infrastructure yet.
Okay.
That is just because that is a value proposition that I did make, and I wanted to explore the art of the possible. But then, of course, I don't think it's good to automate every single thing to start off with. It's important to keep the core of their business in person.
Yep.
But then, as the fact that the conceptual part is there, as they scale, we can automatically add more resources towards that, and we can build that specific arm out.
Okay. I think you're right. So AI cannot do everything. There is a blend of AI and human intervention needed in every part of the business.
Yeah.
So AI automations are introduced where business owners are freed up some time to think about what they do better, right? The core element of their business.
Exactly.
And their strategy comes from the humans who run the business.
Exactly.
And the manual elements that take more time from them and drain them out, and those are the elements that you really automate. So you exactly put it right, I think.
Yeah, I think one thing is, as you mentioned, the hiring part is actually very important. You can automate the talent to come into your pipeline. Then once you get to the point where you want to choose and you want to build a relationship with a photographer, and they want to make sure that, there are so many photography agencies all over. But every company has their own ethos. They have their own way of doing things. Capturing images is a very creative thing, and it's very subjective as well. So the founder, the owner of the business, knew how he wanted to do things how he wanted to get the photographers on board, how he wants to teach them, what kind of performance he wants out of them, how he then allocates his resources, because he has that knowledge. He's done that for such a long time. he doesn't necessarily need to automate that side. I think he wants to keep that very human.
Yeah.
Just wants to automate the boring parts of the business. So which is driving it home is that AI is not actually replacing everything. It's actually allowing a lot of businesses to scale, keep the fun parts, the important parts of the business alive by not being drowned in the more manual processes. Like a lot of times, a lot of people don't care about the editing side. They've already done the editing, so they've got a lot of that information, that back in that database of a lot of images. So they don't necessarily need to keep doing the editing, so they can rely on that AI image to do the editing part, which they have seen that they're not losing the integrity by giving the images to, but it's the way you capture the images to start off with. If the angles, being in the moment, the candid shots, those are the parts that make the image what it is, not actually the editing part, which is very interesting.
So I think it is very interesting that you touched upon the second part of automation, which you did, which is the editing, culling editing, and giving the outputs as a desired outputs. So you really touched upon a good standing out concept there, which is this AI solution that you have done actually looks at lots of images from that photography agency, understands their style, understands their elements of photographic edits that they want to recreate, and then surfs through the content and actually edits the way the photographic agency wants the pictures to be edited before it's finalized. So can we talk about the tech stack itself? What kind of LLM did you use, and how big was the knowledge base, and how did you automate the whole thing?
So yeah, that's a really good question, and I didn't build the whole LLM system out. It's already it's already a service. There's a few services out there, but the service is called Imagine AI. So what it does is allows you to upload all the images into the service. It allows that it has a culling ability, it has an editing ability, but the culling process, which is choosing the images, the right images, they do that in-house, but the software also allows human in the loop, where it's like a Tinder style, where they showed like two different images. They can click on the ones that they like, and they can also show duplicates, so it gets rid of the duplicates. So that culling process is actually very interesting, because it probably is one part that takes a long time for photography agencies. So the culling process is done by Imagine, then the editing part is also done by Imagine. So then what we just did is basically took the entire repository of images that they have shot and then added that to Imagine. Imagine has for the technical people, they have AWS S3 bucket that holds all the images, and everything is run through that. And I basically created all that through NAN, through API access. So every time a image would go into Google Drive, it will get categorized based on the job, the date, the type of the job, so that information lives inside Airtable. Because every time a new job is created, then it goes into Google Drive, and Google Drive always has the metadata, and then it pushes that information into Imagine. Imagine does his thing, does the culling, does the editing, then it pushes it back into the Google Drive as a post final product, and then a reminder or automation is sent via Airtable for the customers to say that the status of their job is done and it's available in Google Drive. So where someone has to manually take these images, cull them, edit them, and communicate that with them for the final client, all of this is managed by Airtable, and notifications are automatically being managed, almost like an Uber for photography agents.
I see. Okay. So basically, once a job is done, you upload it into Google Drive, and then there is an N8N workflow that looks for the new job placed.
Yes.
The N8N actually picks the images and pushes it to Imagine. And does the N8N also trigger Imagine to do the culling? Does it also trigger the Imagine to do editing?
So yeah, actually it does. It's just a back and forth.
Yeah. Okay.
But a lot of it is still managed by Imagine. A lot of the heavy lifting is a service that is specific to, and it's a niche as well, right?
Yeah.
I don't really necessarily come from the photography niche.
Yeah.
But I can understand problems really well, and finding these kind of services like that is, why reinvent the wheel when someone is doing so much support already. So imagine the heavy lifting for you at a subscription. And they have such good support. Like when I had to jump on calls with them, understand what the process is, API cost, the cost-based analysis, how many, because we're doing this at scale, figuring out how much each edit and each culling would work, how much would it cost. So yeah, I mean, that is the world we live in, like, which is really good because we've got all these services that are readily available. It's just finding what the best service is and then gluing it together using n8n, which is...
That's great. That's great. So you do have n8n services that hook up to the APIs from 𝐻𝐼𝐻, and then you did the automation of workflows.
Yes, because it's multiple. We've got Google Drive, we've got 𝐻𝐼𝐻, then we have Airtable in the mix as well. So yeah, all of that glued together using n8n.
That's great, Shubs. That's great. Actually, a very nice tech stack. Simple, consumable, usable tech stack that does the job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think amazing. So are you able to share some of the benefits from these 3 automations that you've done, right? Getting the intake funnel, automating the intake funnel for their projects, automating the talent funnel to make sure talent is converted into photographers for the system, and automating the actual culling and editing process through n8n, although you use 𝐻𝐼𝐻 as a main editing tool. So out of these 3, what are the benefits that you can speak about, or the case study numbers that you can share with our audience, which will also be beneficial for other photography agencies as to if they automate this is the outcome they get?
Right. So let's put it this way. The starting point for them was, they have worked in this space for a very long time, and they have a one-to-one relationship with the systems at this point, like when we first started, which is every part of the process had a human being doing it, which meant that if they needed to scale, and seasonalities change, because wedding seasons is not all year round. It could be, corporate events tend to be all year round, but it depends on, of course, the type of you still have to do the marketing, and you still have to build presence. So there's so many different elements of running a business. Even thinking about scaling means that you have to think about all these different areas, and you have to figure out how to systematize it and how to scale it. Bringing these tools in, which are actually quite lightweight. Now we're calling them lightweight because they are super powerful. They're lightweight to implement, quicker to implement, not long. It doesn't take that long. It shows how the manual work, the workload, like, if there's a lot of data or communication elements where there's a lot of gaps in that whole process. If you've got human beings doing the whole process of taking the images, then communicating with the photographers, then being able to manage the customer side of things as well, then marketing, there's a lot of moving parts that have to be done by the human beings. But if you tie one whole job together and you say, right, you start looking at, we've got 5 jobs this month, but then through automations, you can start focusing on the marketing side and bring in new jobs and do more lead generation. That's what happened for them. By automating this entire process, they reduce the friction in the whole process, the communication gap, the constant managing of the team, and the founder trying to communicate with his team. This is all in sync now. Everyone owns their piece of work, and they also can see how that job has gone from the job itself, from the customer itself, from the event itself, all the way to the post-production, it's an end-to-end cycle basically. So there's lesser people trying to own more parts of the business.
You've solved for the bottlenecks, thereby ending up in scaling the business.
Yeah. Sorry, I know it's a bit of a roundabout way to say it, but...
No, this is perfect. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the more leads they get, the more scalability they achieve. Those are the key benefits of AI implementation and workflow. So you've reduced manual effort, so there are some hours you've saved. Those hours have been reutilized in more meaningful way of strategizing the intake funnels and getting more meaningful leads and expanding their business into corporate ventures. And that has ended up in scalability for the business. So how long has this implementation worked so far, and have the numbers changed from number of clients perspective?
Yeah, so they're getting more corporate events. They are hiring more photographers now. They're hiring more photographers at a cheaper price as well, but per event, there's more photographers that are able to do more work, for example, because they're able to do more lead generation, and more photographers are able to do more work rather than just the small amount of photographers that are just doing the core work. Because every time the system is able to flag up a new job, it's like Upwork or something like that, so
Oh, I see. Okay.
finds a job, so a job comes up it's like just in time. These systems are just in time. They assemble the resources just in time, pretty much.
Wow, that's great. So you've cut the lead time, really?
Yeah, lead time.
Yeah.
Again, it is still work in progress. It's still like scaling along, and I'm going in and I'm actually just basically building the new parts. So the next phase is about to come. In the next phase, which is as we scale, I'll be able to review
Better numbers, better insights into the numbers. Thank you. Yeah. So if at all a photographic agency now wants to talk to you, Shubs, what part of automation would you say they should start with, the key automation?
I would say, I think always it's lead generation to start off with, because one thing I also realized working with the photo loggers was initially we were solving a problem which was more fulfillment, but also realized that there was a lead generation problem as well that needed to be solved for. So I think it's always good to first go into the lead generation side, see what the bottlenecks are, and then build new marketing efforts, being able to think of it as like your company is a brand, and if you're building for the brand, you want to increase your marketing efforts, build more awareness about your business in the market, and then equally get leads. And then once you have more leads coming to your through the door, then you can focus on these back-end fulfillment systems, because then you can justify the cost of those systems.
Yes.
To start off with. So yeah, it's...
What sort of operational cost are they looking at if they want to automate their lead generation? And what sort of operational cost should they add up if they want to do the tail end of culling and editing automation as well? So for both those automations, what would be their initial investment and their monthly operational costs?
So for the initial investment for lead generation side, again, it varies on the size of the company, existing workflows. Again, that's difficult for me to say because it always varies. Different markets vary as well. Hard to say the price right now, but I roughly charge around the 10K to start off with for the back-end side of things, the lead generation side of things. It also adds up the sort of cost-based analysis, the R&D side of things. And as we productize the service even better, the price can go even down. But yeah, it's hard for me to say at the moment exactly how much it's going to cost. But I would say if we talk about in percentages, it's good to put 10 to 15% of your revenue towards operationalizing and doing marketing, at least to start off with. But then that percentage only will increase, but you would start seeing a higher revenue going up. But yeah, 10 to 15%, I would say.
Nice, that's nice. So one final question before we sign off. What do you think the future of photographic agencies are going to be with AI automations as well? Where do you see the future lying?
I think that photography agencies are very good. It's a good intersection between technology, because a photography agency uses a lot of tech in their events. Plus, we have AI. So this is one arm I wanted to explore, and I probably will explore with them at some point, where they can take existing content and then use AI generated content afterwards.
Okay.
Again, I'm not quite sure of the GDPR area, but you can create amazing movies out of it. You can have amazing cutscenes if you're creating a video. I think there's a lot more content being made as well. In general, before it was for a specific event, it was like, okay, big events happening in the weddings happening, or you're going to a corporate event, or someone has pulled the money together to like get a photographer. But I think now people are focusing on brands, individual brands. We have things like Riverside to do these kind of podcasts. So equally, us as human beings want to express more. So I think these photography agencies are going to start seeing a shift towards what kind of services they also provide, how AI plays a massive impact, and everyone wants to get content. So I'm seeing that in this photography agency, they already have a lot of people doing photo shoots, photo shoots, which are unrelated to, weddings, or they're just a different type of product that they're trying to sell.
Okay. Yeah, that's an evolving space, and I think a space we all should be watching as well. And I'm glad I spoke to you, Shubs, because this is an unventured area, I would say. Not many people know how AI can help in small businesses or even in photography as a business. I think this is a very good insight you've given to our listeners as well. So people who want to reach out to you, I'll put your details in the description. Is there anything else you want to tell our listeners?
At this point, I would say keep curious about the space.
Thank you.
Because curiosity has helped me to learn about new areas, keep my mind open. And I think things are changing so rapidly that it becomes very confusing to where to go towards. But just keeping tight in the information. But yeah, it's amazing. I've changed the ways I work immensely from last year. Probably for the next podcast, maybe.
Another one. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
So
thank you so much, Shubs, and it was very insightful talking to you today. Really, honestly, I think a lot more business owners will benefit from what we have spoken. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Madhu, for having me.
Thank you.